Specific performance of contract. Question: which contract can be enforced and which contract cannot be enforced? Discuss with the relevant section and examples. For which reasons a court can refuse to give a degree of specific performance of contract even though the contract is legal and enforceable? Answer: specific performance of the contract. When a party to a contract suffers irreparable loss due to a breach of contract for which financial compensation is not considered enough or adequate, then she or he can sue before the court to enforce the terms of the contract. This is called a specific performance of the contract. Where breach of contract causes loss to any of the parties of the contract, the relief of which is not considered enough, appropriate and adequate through financial compensation, there as the financial compensation is not sufficient, then the aggrieved party is allowed to claim a specific performance of the contract as appropriate and legal relief. Section 12 of the Specific Relief Act 1877 states about the contract in which specific performance are enforceable and contracts are not specifically enforceable are described in section 21 and 21A. When the court may execute the specific performance of a contract. The second relief under section 5 of the Specific Relief Act 1877 is the specific performance of a contract. Section 12 of the Specific Relief Act 1877 has given court the discretionary power of order to perform specifically regarding a contract. When a party enters into a contract, then a legal obligation creates between them. Under Section 12 of the contract of the Act, a court may order to perform a contract in 4 cases. For a contract must be occurred to claim relief under Section 12. According to Section 12 of the Specific Relief Act 1877, the court has the discretionary power to order the execution of a specific performance of contract in the following cases. Number 1, if the performance of contract related to the trust. According to Section 12A of this Act, when the Act agreed to be done is the performance wholly or partly of a trust. Example: A has stocked some products to B. Later, B illegally transfers that product to another. In this case, a legal obligation arises on B to return the product to A. In this case, the court may direct B to return the product to A. Number 2, if there is no standard for determining the loss for breach of contract. According to Section 12B of this Act, when there exists no standard for ascertaining the actual damage caused by non-performance of the Act agreed to be done. Example: A agrees to buy and B agrees to sell a picture by a dead painter and 2 rare china vases. A may compel B specifically to perform the contract, for there is no standard for ascertaining the actual damage which would be caused by its non-performance. Number 3, if pecuniary compensation is not considered adequate. According to Section 12C of this Act, when the Act agreed to be done is such that pecuniary compensation for its non-performance would not afford adequate relief. Example: A entered into a contract with B to buy a piece of patriarchal land. If B later refused to sell it, the court may order him to perform the contract. Number 4, if there is no possibility of getting pecuniary compensation. According to Section 12D of the Specific Relief Act, when it is probable that pecuniary compensation cannot be got for the non-performance of the contract agreed to be done. Example: A transfers without endorsement but for valuable consideration a promissory note to B. A becomes insolvent and C is appointed his assignee. B may compel C to endorse the note, for C has B may compel C to endorse the note, for C has succeeded to A's liabilities, and a decree for pecuniary compensation for not endorsing the note would be fruitless. when specific performance of a contract is not enforceable. The agreement cannot be specifically enforced in the 8 cases as per under Section 21 of the Specific Relief Act 1877. Number 1, adequate relief by pecuniary compensation. According to Section 21A of the Specific Relief Act, a contract for the non-performance of which compensation in money is an adequate relief. Example, A has contracted to sell 100 boxes of soap to B for taka 20,000. If A refuses to provide it at a later time, B will not be able to sue for the specific performance of the said agreement, because the damage caused by this breach of contract is compensable by money. Number 2, depending on personal merit or determination. According to Section 21B of the Specific Relief Act, a contract that runs with number A, the sum of complex and innumerable detailed descriptions, or number B, depending on the personal qualification or determination of the parties, or number C, the nature of the contract in any other way is such that the court cannot enforce its significant terms precisely. Example, A is a singer. He made a contract to perform at B's hotel. If he does not perform later, the court cannot enforce him to the court cannot force him to enforce the contract. Number 3, the terms of the contract cannot be determined with reasonable certainty. According to Section 21C of the Specific Relief Act, the terms of the contract cannot be determined by the court with reasonable certainty. Example, if B can send A's son abroad, B agrees to give him a gold chain. In this matter, the term of the contract is not certain because it is not clear how much gold and where to send it abroad. Therefore, the court cannot issue directions for the implementation of such agreements. Number 4, the contract is naturally revocable. According to Section 21D of the Specific Relief Act, the contract is voidable or revocable due to its nature. Example, A and B contract to become partners in a certain business. The contract is not specifying the duration of the proposed partnership. This contract cannot be specifically performed, for if it were so performed, either B or A might at once dissolve the partnership. Number 5, contract made by the trustees. According to Section 21E of the Specific Relief Act, a contract made by trustees either in excess of their powers or in breach of their trust. Example, A is a trustee of land with power to lease it for 7 years. He enters into a contract with B to grant a lease of the land for 7 years with a covenant to renew the lease at the expiry of the term. This contract cannot be specifically enforced. Number 6, agreements made by the promoters of the company or corporations. According to Section 21F of the Specific Relief Act, contract made by or on behalf of a corporation or public company created for special purposes or by the promoters of such company which is in excess of their powers. Example, if a company formed with the aim of building a railway enters into an agreement to purchase a company existing for the sole purpose of making and working a railway contract for the purchase of a piece of land for the purpose of erecting a cotton mill thereon. This contract cannot be specifically enforced. Number 7, it takes more than 3 years to perform. According to Section 21G of the Specific Relief Act, a contract the performance of which involves the performance of a continuous duty extending over a longer period than 3 years from its date. Example, a contract to let for 21 years to be the right to use such part of certain railway made by A as was upon B's land, and that B should have a right of running carriages over the whole line on certain terms and might require A to supply the necessary engine power, and that A should during the term keep the whole railway in good repair. Specific performance of this contract must be refused to B. Number 8. The contents of the contract have been repealed. According to Section 21H of the Specific Relief Act, a contract of which a material part of the subject matter supposed by both parties to exist has before it has been made ceased to exist. Example: A and B are contracted with C, D for lifelong annual scholarship. It was later revealed that A was not alive at the time of making the contract. This agreement cannot be specifically enforced. Unregistered contract for sale not specifically enforceable. According to Section 21A of the Specific Relief Act 1877, notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in this act or any other law for the time being in force, no contract for sale of any immovable property can be specifically enforced unless, number 8, the contract is in writing and registered under the Registration Act 1908, whether or not the transferee has taken possession of the property or any part thereof. And number B, the balance amount of consideration of the contract is deposited in the court at the time of filing the suit for specific performance of the contract. Reasons behind the non-granting of decree even if the contract is legal and valid. According to Section 21 of the Specific Relief Act, the jurisdiction to decree specific performance is discretionary, and the court is not bound to grant such relief merely because it is lawful to do so. But the discretion of the court is not arbitrary but sound and reasonable, guided by a judicial principle and capable of correction by a court of appeal. Question: briefly describe the various types of specific reliefs that can be given in accordance with the Specific Relief Act 1877. What are the conditions to be fulfilled in order to get relief for a specific performance of contract for sale of immovable property? Which specific performance or which specific relief can be prayed for it in such a suit? Answer: specific reliefs discussed in the Specific Relief Act 1877. Specific reliefs can be given in the 5 ways mentioned below. Number 1, by taking possession of certain property and delivering it to a claimant. Number 2, by ordering to do the very act which are obligatory to do. Number 3, by ordering not to do that which is obligatory not to do. Number 4, by determining and declaring the rights of the parties otherwise than by an award of compensation. Or number 5, by appointing a receiver. Number 1, the various types of specific reliefs allowed under the Specific Relief Act 1877 are briefly described below. Section 8 and 9 of Specific Relief Act 1877 state about recovery of possession when a person is dispossessed from immovable property. The point to be considered is that if the dispossessed person has the title ownership to the land, then he has to file a suit under Section 8 and claim for recovery of the cash possession. The plaintiff must prove the title ownership of certain immovable property. The possession of plaintiff of the said property is not important to be proved. According to Section 110 of the Evidence Act, the person claiming possession has to prove ownership. However, if the dispossessed person does not have the title ownership to the land, then he has to file a suit under Section 9 to recovery of the possession. Apart from the recovery of possession for movable property can be claimed under Section 10 and 11 of this Act. Number 2, specific performance of contract. As per Section 12 and Section 12 of the Specific Relief Act 1877, a court may order to perform a contract in 4 cases, but a contract must be occurred to claim relief under Section 12. the court has the discretionary power to give specific relief. The court may give order for a specific performance of contract in the following cases. Number one, when the act agreed to be done is in performance wholly or partly of a trust. Number two, when there exists no standard for ascertaining the actual damage caused by the non-performance of the act agreed to be done. Number three, when the act agreed to be done is such that a pecuniary compensation for its non-performance would not afford adequate relief. Or number four, when it is probable that pecuniary compensation cannot be got for the non-performance of the act agreed to be done. Preventive relief. Number three, Section 52 to 57 of the Specific Relief Act discussed about the preventive relief by granting temporary or permanent injunction by the court. By injunction, a party can be enforced to act or refrain from doing an act. The Specific Relief Act mainly deals with three types of injunctions. Number one, temporary injunction. Number two, perpetual injunction. Number three, mandatory injunction. Number four, appointment of a receiver. It is the discretion of the court to appoint a receiver while the suit is pending under Section 44 of the Specific Relief Act. The appointment of the receiver and his rights and liabilities are governed by the provisions of the Code of Civil Procedure, Order 40, Civil Procedure. Number five, declaratory or declaration or declaratory decree. According to Section 42 of the Specific Relief Act, a person who has the title ownership to a property or a person who has a right to legal status can exercise without any interference. If someone raises a question or interferes with the ownership or legal status, he or she can sue and get a declaration of his or her title. Such a suit is called a declaratory suit. Section 31 to 34 of the Specific Relief Act have also discussed about amendment of documents. Section 35 to 38 of the Specific Relief Act discussed about rescission of contract, and Section 39 to 41 of the Specific Relief Act has discussed about cancellation of documents to give relief. Conditions to be fulfilled in order to get the relief for specifically enforcing the contract for sale of immovable property. According to Section 21A of the Specific Relief Act 1877, notwithstanding anything to the contrary content in this act or any other law for the time being in force, no contract for sale of any immovable property can be specifically performed or enforced unless, number A, the contract is in writing and registered under the Registration Act 1908, whether or not the transferee has taken possession of the property or any part thereof. And number B, the balance amount of consideration of that contract is deposited in the court at the time of filing the suit for specific performance of the contract. Thank you.